there. Today I'm going to be talking about something that comes up for me all the time and probably everyone that I've ever talked to. So these are common points of resistance that we experience in our life for any type of challenge, really, whether it be something with our health, something with a relationship, something with our career, or any decision that you have to make. So we're going to just kind of talk through 6 points of resistance, especially for parents, that I have found over and over and over, not only for Mike and I, but like I said, with many people that we've worked with as well. And just kind of make you aware of them, because the key to learning how to overcome these resistance points or these different challenges and knowing when there actually may be an opportunity for you to move beyond it and get closer to your goals of what you want for your family and for your child to maybe live even healthier and happier than they already do, or have a different dynamic with your family, is to first see these different stumbling blocks that are slowing down your progress. Because when you are aware of them, that's like, the light bulb went on. Like, oh, wait a second, I remember that. I'm supposed to pay attention here. And now I can start to look at it a little closer, and that's going to help you to move forward. So I'm going to call these parental resistance points. I mean, you can kind of call it whatever you want, just an obstacle, if you will. But there's 6 main ones that we're going to go through. And the first one is analysis paralysis, or you can call it logistics paralysis or perfection paralysis. And trust me being a control enthusiast, I like to call instead of control freak, I used to be ruled by perfection paralysis, right? I wanted to do everything the way it had to be done, in the right order, in the right time, in the right sequence, to achieve the optimal results. And it took me years to realize that slowed me down and held back on a lot of opportunities. So it really wasn't until Julia's health crisis with her seizures that kind of catapulted us into all of these resistance points at once, and we had to take a look at them in a different way. So in that story, for our example, I'm just going to speak from my experience. The analysis paralysis and logistics paralysis that came up was we were searching. In my heart, I knew that there had to be something we were missing, some piece of the puzzle that could help uncover her healing and improve her health. And we just didn't know what it was yet. However, when it came to a friend who referred a nutritionist to us, I was like, well, I've been in health and fitness for over a decade. Almost 15 years. I know how to eat healthy. We eat vegetables. I don't really see the correlation. And I just was resistant to that opportunity at first. And then I thought, I know that she's helped with different digestive issues and autoimmune conditions, but what do seizures have to do with it? Our scenario is different. Our scenario doesn't fit into her area of expertise. So I really found myself being resistant to that opportunity at first. And it wasn't until I realized that all these questions are coming up. So when you find yourself surrounded by questions when an opportunity presents itself, when you're like, well, I don't know if this is the right time, I don't know if this is the same scenario for us, I don't know if it's the best fit, that is an indication that you are coming up against some resistance. There is something that's kind of slowing you down, holding you back, that maybe you can take a deep breath and take a closer look at and recognize it for what it is. So when you see that resistance, like I said, that's the first step in letting it start to melt away. Okay, the second parental resistance that people find themselves in, and I absolutely did this as well, is money paralysis, right? So many times we think, well, I don't have the funds for this, or maybe, to work with this specialist, or to be in this coaching program, or to seek this type of help. We don't have extra money in our bank account right now to cover that. Maybe after, 6 months we can take a look at it, or after we save up for something. And the reality is, let's be honest, we all spend money for our children's best health and happiness every single day. So it's really just a shift in mindset to recognize that that money already exists and is already being utilized in some way. It's just a matter of reallocating resources. So in our example, when we made the decision to start to bring on some resources and some support to help Julia and to help Mike and to help me with our health challenges, it was a matter of reallocating. For example, Julia was in competitive gymnastics at the time and she loved it. And we realized, well, what is more important? For her to have one more year on the competitive gymnastics team, or for her to learn how to heal herself so she can live without seizures for the rest of her life. And hopefully by the time she's 16, she can drive a car because she won't have to worry about seizure medication restrictions and limitations. I think she would rather be able to drive that car when she's 16 than have missed or than worry about having one extra year on the gymnastics team. So it was really like this light bulb switched when it was just like, well, no, you already have that money. It's being used in some way, in some capacity. Reallocate your resources, and then that money paralysis just disappears. We also have had clients who have looked at selling old strollers and cribs and baby stuff that's been sitting in their basement that they no longer use, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wow, I have money right now. Now this is money that already was sitting in my house and wasn't being utilized that I can use to work with you to move forward and support my child in a different way. So it's really kind of cool to get creative and just realize it's a shift, right? It's just simply a shift of how that money is being allocated and where that time and energy is going. And then that problem usually is resolved very quickly. The next third resistance point that comes up and has, again, for us, is being ruled by rules. And that kind of ties into the whole, I would say, control enthusiasm that I had for myself. You know, for me, it was more of when Julia was at a point where we had done a lot of work and really made changes and been intentional about things in our life and the way that we were supporting her, and it was time to start to ease her off some of her medication, right? So she was on 4 different seizure medications at the same time. I mean, she used to take so many pills a day, it was crazy. And we hated it, but at the same time, it was so scary to think about starting to wean her off. And when our support network, our coach was saying, you know, I think we're in a good place, we can start to phase out, it was like, whoa, hold on, put on the brakes, like this is something new, this is uncertain, this is really scary, because the last thing I want is for her to have seizures again. And being ruled by the rules of like, no, we have to do things right, and we have to, you know, like having all the time parameters in place and everything, that sometimes can be a resistance that's holding you back. And the reality is, in our situation, we were able to then dig a little bit deeper, recognize that resistance, and as a result, she rolled off of all 4 medications in record time and has been like unbelievably efficient and fast in moving forward in the direction that we ultimately wanted for her. So just be aware if you find yourself having certain rules about when you can do things or how you can do things or what type of things are going to work for your family or for your child, that is an indication that that's probably an obstacle holding some ground and some weight on you. The 4th resistance point or obstacle that slows us down is handing over the decision-making authority to somebody else. And this is a big one, especially for many moms that we work with. I can't tell you how many times we hear, I really like this stuff, this message resonates, and I can see it just makes sense. I can see how this works and how this would be helpful for my child or for my family. However, my husband isn't in the same place, and I just don't think he'd ever buy into this or ever support this. Well, the reality is you have to stop and put a little hold on here and think of the person in the other shoes. When they most likely were not present for the information and to hear all of the background knowledge and all of the details of something, no wonder they're going to be skeptical and doubtful. They don't have all the facts, right? So you have to have compassion for the person on the receiving end of the message. When we hand over the authority to make a decision about something to someone else, and that person doesn't have all of the information and feels uncertain, of course they're going to be doubtful and unsupportive. So the best thing I recommend for moms that find themselves in that situation to do is to first find the confidence and conviction within yourself. Because if this is something that truly resonates with you and you say, I can just see how this totally makes sense, you can then have confidence to know that it's an effective strategy and it's different from other things that you have tried in the past. And when you can have that confidence and that conviction, and candidly, you no longer have to sheepishly ask if it's okay to support your child's best health and happiness. Rather, reframe that conversation and simply say, I am doing this for our child, and here's why. Because I know I've done my due diligence, I've looked at all the homework, and I understand that this is going to be something that's really beneficial for all of us and move us exactly forward in the direction that we're looking to go. And when you can state something and come forward with that confidence, that clarity, and the conviction behind it, it's a no-brainer. The person on the receiving end of that message is absolutely going to support and get behind it, right? It's like anything. When you have a doctor come into the room, part of the reason the doctor is so inspiring in a way, even though you may have that kind of underlying uncertainty about why or how the recommendations are, doctors have complete conviction in the message that they're sharing. And I think that that is admirable, and that is something that works for a reason, because they have experience, they have done this before, they know their information, they've done their due diligence, so they have complete confidence in sharing their suggestions or their information. And what I want for you is what we were able to eventually experience with the help of others, is to get to a place of where you can receive information and receive it from multiple sources, and then have confidence in yourself and feel empowered because you know your child the best. Candidly, you're the expert on your child, and you can take in this information, and this information, and then glean from all of that what is going to resonate and work best for your family. And when you have that confidence and that position of empowerment behind what you're saying, there is no problem about having a spouse or someone else be on board with the direction that you're moving. So just be aware of that resistance about handing over the decision to somebody else. When you are certain and confident in what you're doing, that is usually an issue that completely dissolves. And then the fifth resistance point that comes up is a big one. This is self-doubt, right? Because how many times do we get in a situation where we're like, well, I tried that and it didn't work before. I did something similar and it totally backfired. Or I don't know if I'm able to do all of this. That sounds like it's going to be a big investment of time and change and energy. I just don't know if I'm capable of that. And I have a fantastic resource that I want to share with you to make sure that you can mitigate any self-doubt that creeps in. And it's called the Groundhog Day exercise. So when you have that feeling of doubt or uncertainty about your own ability to move forward, take a moment to reflect and write down what it was that you've done in the past, what worked well, and then what didn't work well. And after you have looked at those and compared what worked and what didn't, write some new non-negotiable standards for yourself, because you always have an opportunity to learn from past experiences and past challenges. And when we learn and we reflect, and we say, well, what didn't work well? Or what piece of this kind of turned it in a direction that wasn't where I want to go? Again, now I have a new standard that I'm going to apply in the future. So now all of a sudden that self-doubt is gone, because moving forward, you're not going to repeat the same mistakes from your past. You're going to go in a different direction, and you're going to learn from that and expand and grow. So that is such a valuable tool to overcome any self-doubt that creeps in. And then finally, that sixth point of resistance that we find that is, just comes up in different ways of our lives, is thinking that we can do it alone. How many times do you think, I just need to hear the information, or to get the book, or to get the recipe, or to see what the steps are, and then I'm good. I can do it on my own. I am guilty of that. I am prime candidate number one. I tend to overestimate my ability to just move forward without hesitation, because I want it. We all do. However, what I'm discovering is that without that supportive community around you, or someone to be by your side, think of I love this analogy of having a guide on the side. Not necessarily always someone in front of you or behind you, but someone to be your companion and to go through the steps with you. That is so crucial for continuing your progress, because we as humans are hardwired for connection. So community is so valuable. Sharing that experience with people, having someone to sound things off and to check in with you. How many times do you have someone in your life that knows where it is that you are moving, specifically, where your direction is, what your goals are, and what changes you want to have in the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years for your and your family's life? Who is it in your life that can be there, can be compassionate, and also can hold you accountable, that will say, I see you. It looks like you're kind of taking steps back into that comfort zone. If things are getting a little edgy, what's going on? Let's talk about that. The reality is, if we don't have that reliable source that we can be totally vulnerable with and that can really check in with us, is really likely that we're going to kind of just step back when things get tough. Because human nature, no one wants to be uncomfortable. It's not fun. So that is such a crucial element to overcome the resistance and the obstacles in your life. And that's why it's such a huge part to be a part of a community that is going to be there and surround you and support you. So I just wanted to share those things. Keep an eye out for different things things in your life, and you'll see different patterns. Things will come and go at different times when you have challenges come up. Usually it's tied to one of these resistance points, whether it be the analysis paralysis or perfection paralysis, the money paralysis, I can't do it now, we don't have the funds, they're being ruled by rules, I have to do things in a certain order in a certain time. The other one is giving over the decision making to somebody else. It's outside of my control, nothing I can do about it. The fifth one is self-doubt and uncertainty in your own ability to follow through and move forward. And that final obstacle that sometimes comes up is thinking that we can do it alone. So I hope that's helpful for you. Take it with you, and we'll see you soon.